Minik from Boxcar Marketing, and we are continuing on with our GA4 setup. So what we've done is created our GA4 property and linked it to our universal account. We know that data is tracking, and there are several things that we need to link or create. So under Setup Assistant, Google Signals is the tool that's going to provide us demographic information. To set up Google Signals, you want to make sure that you can update your privacy policy and follow all of the instructions that are in this section. You'll see there are a number of pieces of information that you're going to have to be able to adjust and agree to before you get started. But following the instructions here under Get Started is very simple and easy to do. So that's under the Setup Assistant. Under Property Settings, we have the website and all of this information. If you clicked the Setup Assistant, it should have pulled all of this data over from your Universal Analytics account. So if you see something strange here, then it's also strange in your Universal Analytics account, your GA3 account. So you want to go and change that. If you clicked Create Property, you would have been asked to input this. So again, hopefully this information is what you want it to be. So you have the correct reporting and time zone or business. If not, you definitely want to go and update that in your Universal Analytics property as well, because it's probably incorrect there. So that's your property settings. Property access management shows who's allowed to administer the account. Your data stream is your website stream that you set up in the first step. You can click on this to get access to the other setup information about your tags and connected accounts. Seems to be an error there. Nothing's loading, and I'm kind of frozen. For whatever reason, Analytics is frozen here. So we'll just give it a refresh and see. There we go, our web stream details. So our enhanced measurement is on. This is where we found our information to add our GA4 tag, because of course that's the recommended way to go about it. If you have additional properties or things that you use and want to connect it, this is where you would come. And if you do cross-domain tracking, this is where you would come to enter your domains. So if you have blog.boxcarmarketing.com, boxcarmarketing.com, shop.boxcarmarketing.com, then what you want is to add those conditions. So I could say contains, shop.boxcarmarketing.com. And I would also do my regular boxcarmarketing.com, or because this is a match type and contains, I could just do the one condition. So any of my subdomains that include Boxcar Marketing would appear here. But if you're running a Shopify site and your shop is at myshopify.com, then you would add that domain. This is how you're going to create your cross-domain tracking in GA4. This isn't the scenario for my website, so I'm just going to discard those changes. But again, that's where you want to come for your cross-domain traffic. If you have static IP addresses, you could create that kind of rule here. But most people have dynamic IP addresses, so it's very difficult for a lot of businesses to use this internal traffic rule. But if you are in a business and you have a standard IP address and you really can track internal traffic, then this is where you would do that setup. Unwanted referrals. So that could be spam bots or Viagra sites or whatever it is that you notice in your referrals. This is where you can get rid of those referrals if they're known to you. You can set how long a session lasts. So when you think about the number of visitors to your site and how many visits they make, Google Analytics talks about users and sessions. So how many users do we have, and how many sessions do they make? How many visits to your website? This is going to, if they're on your site for more than 30 minutes, then it will it'll believe that that's a separate session. So they probably loaded your website, wandered away, came back. It knows to count that as a separate session. Engaged session. So engaged session is a new metric in GA4. And the default threshold here is 10 seconds. So if you know from Universal Analytics that users on your site who stick around for 30 seconds or more would be considered engaged users, then this is where you would adjust that time setting. I'm going to leave it for now at the default and come out of this tagging section. So we were looking at the web stream, details under data stream. Now under data settings, we have, again, we could access our Google signals here. Data retention, the default is 2 months. So I have been, I've changed this to 14 months because I want to retain this information. So event data, GA4 is event-based. It uses an event-based data model, which means instead of like Universal Analytics, which used a hit-based model, we had different hit types. So page view was a hit type. You could manually or customize events like scroll depth or outbound clicks. Those were event hits. Everything in GA4 is considered an event. So a page view, a scroll, a site search, a file download, an outbound link click. So if you want to do this reporting period versus last reporting period, you're going to want to change this to 14 months instead of 2 months. And this reset user data, we can read what this means. I'm sorry, I haven't looked at this in advance. Turn this option on to reset the retention period of the user identifier with each new event from that user. Current time plus retention period. So I think that's what we want, and that's how we're going to keep our data for longer. So we'll save those settings and we'll carry on and look at data filters. So I have this internal traffic that is excluding this. I didn't actually set this up, so I don't know. Thanks, Google. Great. Data import. So if you have ad data, like your Facebook ad information that you want to upload in order to do costing or to calculate a ROAS, return on ad spend, then you could create that data source and upload it here. Reporting identity. This allows you to do cross device tracking. So if someone is logged in and they view your website logged into their Google Analytics account and they also visit it on a mobile, then this is our cross device tracking. We can change that. Universal Analytics didn't know who people were as granularly as GA4. So we could switch it back to device only, but I'm going to stick with this default. So attribution, the attribution model in GA4 is quite different than GA3. So Universal Analytics uses a last click attribution model. And right now the default is cross-channel last click model. It's recommending this data-driven model. I don't know much about these different attribution settings, so I'll have to come back and play with that. And again, look at these look back windows. So we'll save that, see what it does, come back and report. I don't know if that's actually saved now. Property changes, so we can see any adjustments that were made, and we can request data be deleted if we have a privacy request or anything else. The other steps we have to do is link our AdWords account, Ads Manager, BigQuery if you use that, and Search Console. So Search Console, we're going to click link as a way to start that. And we're going to choose the accounts. So I'm looking for Boxcar. Here's Boxcar Marketing. I use the HTTPS, but I want this domain one. So good. I guess I could add it. Can I add it to each of these? No, I can only pick one. That's the one. I want the domain, not the URL prefix. You can see the differences. So this is the secure version of the site. But actually, if you go to Boxcar Marketing, it's HTTPS www.boxcarmarketing. So we don't actually have that URL prefix because domain is the one that I want to use. But you might only have URL prefix. So you have to pick the one that is accurate to the URL that people actually go and visit. I'm going to confirm, hit next. I'm going to select the web stream and hit next. And that's working together, done and created. So just follow the same steps with your ads and ad manager. It's as simple as that. And then analytics, intelligent search history. I don't know what that is. This is just sort of telling me it's going to help me view and find things in the future. So that is great. If you come back to your overhead view, you'll notice this is one of the differences between Universal Analytics and GA4. In Universal Analytics, we have a third column here, View Settings. And GA4, we just have the one property. We've got our Universal Analytics, and we've got our Google GA4 account. And there aren't separate views for GA4. So we don't have a raw view, a test view, a master view. We just have the main GA4 view. Again, I'm not sure how that's going to play out in terms of what we need to be setting up and how filters are applied. But I'm sure it will all become clearer as this GA4 moves even further. It's out of beta, but there are still many settings and things that are in the works. So I'm Minik from Boxcar Marketing, and that is what I know so far about GA4. Bye.